I think Inception's one of my favorite movies. I just think it's genius. And I also think it's genius in that it's left open for interpretation, although I think I know what it means. This show has more twists than you could possibly imagine, and it just gets deeper and crazier and more paranoid as you move on. But hopefully it will have you on the edge of your seat. It's written by Dan Fogleman, who's also the creator of This Is Us. So if you're familiar with This Is Us, every once in a while Dan likes to do a zig when you think you're gonna zag.
It takes place in this sort of mysterious community where some of the world's most prominent individuals live and preside. One of those people is the President of the United States, and he's found assassinated or killed or something.
The president is murdered at night in his bedroom. No cameras on, nobody knows who got in there, they don't know why he was murdered. And so you're left trying to figure out what happened to the president. And you think that that's what the show is about. That's really just the tip of the iceberg.
And the show kind of takes on a whole other identity after that.
When did you last see Cal Bradford alive?
I walked the president to his room when he turned in at 22:04. He doesn't pitch. What Dan does is he writes the script and lets you read it, right? So he wrote it. He goes, I think I got something cool. I think you'd be great in the lead character. Why don't you take a read? Tell me what you think.
I was sent the first 4 episodes, and you know, it's sort of set up that it's going to be this thriller whodunit in the presidential office, and we think we're just gonna, go through these people and find out who did it. And then the very end of that episode, I think I gasped or said what, or there was something audible happened.
I read it and I was like, what? Well, even before the what, I was so engrossed with just the relationships, the history of the characters, and how, they're sort of like change over time. Especially between the president and Xavier. I think they have a very rich and very complicated relationship. And then you get to the end of that pilot, and I was like, I'll be damned. Would not have called that in a million years.
And then I had that at the end of every single episode. And that's exciting, because it doesn't happen very often.
And there's more. There's more as we move on.
Yeah, it's full of twists. A big twist for me was when I showed up on set, I thought I was a part of, with Paradise being the title, I thought it was a dating reality show, actually, that I was gonna get involved in.
Was that hard for you?
Turned out not to be the case. Turned out not to be the case.
They gave him a script, they told him he had to remember words. Yeah. It was the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you did pretty good.
I
did.
Yeah.
You got the job done.
I had stuff to do.
You laid down a lot for the first episode.
I did, that's true. And you know what, there wasn't even me most of the time. There was a prosthetic version of me that was made. No joke, to lay there. His name was Russell.
Russell made the Paradise Instagram stories, by the way, or maybe it's part of the feed. He's chilling, I think, in Dan's office, maybe with a martini. So.
Well, and as we kept shooting, my involvement in the scenes became less and less, and Russell
showed up more and more.
Yeah, he became more, and I would show up on set eventually, later call times, and everyone would be talking. It would be all the buzz about Russell and his enigmatic performances.
His charisma.
His
subtlety, his nuance.
His benevolence, how giving and generous he was to charities, and good man.
Yeah.
And they were raving about Russell as an actor.
Russell killed it.
What was it like working with Russell?
Pun intended. Russell was absolutely wonderful. He couldn't have been more giving. His very presence. There's so much you can do with so little, and Russell exemplifies that. Less is more.
Is Russell here today?
Oh, probably. He's omnipresent.
Russell's everywhere.
He is.
The president has cleared you at the highest level.
You're gonna want to hear this.
It has a little bit of loss to it in that we learn a lot about them through their backstories, going into the past and sort of informing what's going on in the present.
Yeah, I think having being able to go back into the past and having those backstories written for us gave us such specificity to play within, and that's really helpful. You don't often get that. Normally we're creating it for ourselves, some of us. So for Dan to do that for us was a huge luxury, and then just trying to bring those moments to life.
Well, it helps when the writing is so sharp and so detailed and so much depth there. And I credit Dan for that because he's remarkably talented in that arena. And so I showed up on set fully understanding who this man was, and if there was ever any question, I would go to him. But it was all there on the page. It really was, and that's the mark of good writing. And so I didn't really have to create as much because so much was there. But it was such there was a really generous jumping off point for and room for interpretation and room for expanding on this character in really interesting ways. And Dan kept telling me he just really wanted to dive into the, he also found the presidential side of him less interesting because this guy doesn't really want to be president. It was like, let's dive into the sort of playfulness of him and also the brokenness as well. And it made for a more fun ride for me to explore those elements of the character.
Your name is Xavier Collins, correct?
Yes.
You have 2 children, James and Presley.
Yes. He's constantly assessing every situation for the worst case scenario, just in order to do his job. Like, that's what his job is. It's watching, it's listening, it's not a lot of talking. So he's a man who really just speaks when he absolutely has to, right? So that's one. The pain that we find him in by virtue of, we find out early on that his wife is gone. It's just him and his 2 kids, and he's still very much missing his wife. So sort of connecting to that pain, I'm married with 2 kids and sort of using the actor's imagination, what happens if she's gone, right? That's another one. Then I think there's also just someone who's always going to do the right thing, even when it's difficult, right? I'm not saying that that's who I am as a person, but that's something that I connected to with Xavier. I guess I try. Xavier really does it. He really does it in a very steadfast way. Even when it makes things uncomfortable or awkward or difficult, he's going to do what he feels is right.
Is a part of you happy that Cal is dead?
Paradise is full of twists, turns, mysteries. Wondering, do you have a favorite twist from a film, a game, or a TV show?
Oh, boy. The first thing I thought of was Inception.
One that just jumps into mind that I was thinking the other day was, is it Primal Suspect with Ed Norton? I don't know if you happen to remember that.
Primal Fear.
Primal Fear, sorry,
Primal
sorry,
Fear,
thank you. There's
yeah.
so many suspects and primes out there and targets right now. Primal Fear. I love that movie. I think he's brilliant in it, and it was, again, when you don't know what's coming, it's exciting.
That was the role everybody wanted at the time. I remember auditioning for it.
Really?
Not getting it. Clearly did not get it. Yeah. I'm gonna stay in the Ed Norton zone and say Fight Club, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice big reveal there, surprise.
I think Inception's one of my favorite movies. And just the way that you can go inside of, it goes deeper. It's like a bottomless pit that you can keep going deeper into someone's consciousness. It's phenomenal. And then everybody has their own sort of take on the top at the end of the film. I just think it's genius. And I also think it's genius in that it's left open for interpretation. Although I think I know what it means, other people are like, may have a slightly different take. So I think that's actually kind of incredible too.
Did it fall or did it keep spinning?
It kept spinning.
I agree with you.